material scientists. Because in this ideological war, they're kind of justifying and kind of confirming or giving people the so-called right, the ideological right to do all kinds of bogus things. Right? And it's justified by this materialistic scientific philosophy which has no grounds in reality. They don't know what they're doing. And actually, not just the scientists. You look at it carefully, people in this world have no clue what's going on. Right? I mean, they have no clue. No idea whatsoever. They're just one thing after another, one kind of suffering after another. Right? But because of Srila Prabhupada, and because of your following Srila Prabhupada, you can make the difference by giving this transcendental knowledge. It is the duty of the members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to save the world. Right? That was what Prabhupada was expecting. And our positions, our strategic offering is again based upon time, place, and circumstance. You see, we have to be so careful not to criticize. There's a Memories of Prabhupada DVD. Mulla Prakriti Mataji, I think that's her name. So she was serving with Prabhupada in India, serving very traditionally and so on. Her health wasn't good, so she had to go to the West for a time. And she saw the devotees on Sankirtan, wearing kami clothes, sometimes wearing wigs, selling incense. And she was like, she was completely disturbed by it. What kind of, this isn't what Prabhupada did in India. This isn't Krishna consciousness. She went back to Prabhupada. You can actually see this. You can check, she tells his pastime. And said, Prabhupada, I was in the West and they're doing all these bogus things, they're wearing wigs, they're wearing kami clothes, telling people this and that to sell the books, incense. Prabhupada said to her, are you perfect? Okay. She said, no, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, therefore don't criticize. You're doing the best you can, they're doing the best they can, therefore don't criticize, just stay here and serve. And she gives his pastime. The mood of service, the quality of service, the offering of service, the type of service, these things can be very, very individual. When Prabhupada he talks about Deshikala Patra, so understand that some of our preachers are primarily preaching in the ISKCON world. We talk about having a festival for the public, but that's still in the ISKCON world. Right? It's on our terms and they come. It's on our terms. When you have to preach on other people's territory, then you have to really start to think about how you're going to spread this movement. What are you going to say? What's going to attract these people? Not because we want to be bogus, not because we want to be contemporary, but because we want to have this mood that Prabhupada speaks about here. The way it should be done. Not that sometimes it's done for the wrong purpose. Let's be very clear about this. It's not a kind of, there's only one way. Sometimes it's done for the wrong purpose. Sometimes we give the packaging because we're into the packaging. We're into the seminar on this topic or that topic more than we're into Christian. It gets dangerous. But on the other hand, if we don't have some culture of innovation and material energy increases, in this day and age, you'll find that God becomes a four-letter word. People don't want to know about religion. Right? They see you, they'll run away. They won't even give you an audience, a hearing. So we have to always calibrate our weapons. Right? So for those who's made, let's say empowerment sometimes. Sometimes people are empowered for a particular service. For those who are given a certain empowerment and they're preaching, as we say sometimes, preaching to the choir, which doesn't make it inferior. Prabhupada said boiling the milk is very important. Sometimes those who are preaching to the choir, they're very traditional, very straight, Krishna consciousness. Right? You surrender to Krishna or else. That's it. No problem. It's good, it's necessary, Prabhupada did it, it's powerful. It has its place. But if we dare to criticize people who are frontline preachers, who have to kind of calibrate the weapons to preach in another way according to, again, time, place, and circumstance, and who can do it, who can, as Prabhupada says, catch the big fish without getting wet, then we're making an apparat. So we have to consider that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Right? That's immature. We have to consider what is the particular circumstance, the need, and the qualification of the individual. These are all factors that determine how one can serve. What particular kind of position one has or service one has in spreading this international society for Krishna consciousness throughout this entire world. So that it actually takes roots in the hearts and minds of this extremely degraded, extremely fallen, and increasingly degraded Western society. It is an art, it is a science. The point is, the principle cannot be changed. Right? The Siddhanta, you can't change. The conclusion, you cannot change that. But how you package it, as he says here, right? Yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. How you package it, that requires some realization, it requires humility, it requires compassion. We cannot, it's a very interesting point that I was hearing by one of our Western gurus. When we're attached to something, then when we don't have humility, whatever we're attached to, we have to make out that's the best thing, isn't it? Because if it's not the best, then I'm not first class anymore, right? I'm attached to doing things this way, therefore it must be the best, and everything else is inferior because I'm doing it, right? It's just our materialistic, neophyte, false ego, right? Whatever I'm doing, it must be the best thing. It's just materialistic. We should rather have humility. Okay, this is how I can serve, this is how I can offer. That doesn't mean it's the only way. And if I see someone doing something else, and it's in line with Guru Sadhu Shastra, or it does not go against Guru Sadhu Shastra, and, as Prabhupada says, you can judge a tree by its fruits. If it works, because Prabhupada was very pragmatic, then, okay, respect to that. Prabhupada even had the devotees at one point start a political party. You can read about that in Nilamrita. But when he saw that they were getting more into the politics than into spreading Krishna consciousness, he said, stop. Don't do it anymore. End that particular project. So he was very pragmatic. So we are also meant to go in that mood. Not see, the fine line is you have to actually understand what the capacity of the individual is. And even when we make some analysis ourselves, we also check in with Guru Sadhu Shastra to be protected. I remember when Tamal Krishna Maharaj was starting his PhD at Cambridge, there was a lot of criticism. A lot of his good brothers told him, don't do it, this is nonsense. And even he himself said it was hellish. He described it. He came here and gave a class, he said it was hellish. Right? And Prabhupada, if you read, Prabhupada didn't en masse encourage devotees to go to university. Right? He wasn't that he was kind of into it. Right? But according to Desha Kalapatra individual, it can be sometimes done. Right? It requires careful consideration. It's not the one-size-fits-all. Right? And worse than that is if you criticize someone who's trying their best with sincere motive. Because then no matter what your position is, you've just disempowered yourself. And disempowerment means that your ability to be compassionate has now become degraded. Right? So even if we don't care about ourselves so much, we don't want to criticize other people because that makes us less useful in our ability to actually serve other living entities. Right? We may not even care so much about our own Krishna consciousness, but we should care so much about service to other people. Because as we explained in the previous presentation, you don't go back to God by yourself. The only way we go back to God is if we make a significant contribution to assisting other people in returning back to God. Otherwise, there's no entry. Right? Because that's what Lord Chaitanya came to do. God comes as a devotee. He doesn't need to. He's been before. He made the statements before. He explained the philosophy before. Bhagavad Gita was there before. But God comes as a devotee just to show everyone by example, by compassionate example. So we also want to glorify all of you because you've been doing that on this Prabhupada marathon. And every single book, as Prabhupada said, even if they just touch the books, their material life is over. Their material life is, they don't know. They may not appreciate, they see the Harinam, they think, well, what is this? These sentimental people. They said the same thing about Lord Chaitanya. Right? The Mayavadi sannyasis, they criticize Lord Chaitanya. He doesn't study Vedanta. What kind of sannyasi is this? He's just running around the streets singing and dancing. They don't understand that's the highest thing. So we will not be deterred by people's understanding or lack of understanding. We will preach regardless. We will preach regardless. And we will know that by doing so, the mercy of Lord Chaitanya will possess the devotee.